Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Blueprint Podcast. And I am hanging out today with Aaron Ruddock. And we're going to talk a little bit about his journey in the HVAC and now garage space. Aaron, welcome, man.
Thanks, Justin. I'm glad to be here. We've been talking about doing this for quite a while.
I know. Busy guy, man. Owning two businesses. As somebody who's done it for a lot of years, I know that it can be quite time consuming. So appreciate you making time for us.
Oh, you're very welcome. You know, people ask me, I love the phrase, I hate to bother you when you're not at work. I'm like, I'm never not at work. Funny story, I was driving with one of my son-in-laws one day, and I drive a lot with the radio off and no sound in the truck, just thinking. And he's like, do you always drive in silence? I'm like, it's never silent in my world. Because my brain's always working on something.
You're like, you're missing out all the conversations going on in my head.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I tell you, because I'm very similar. Like I typically, when I'm driving, there's nothing playing. And my wife, Kristen and I had the kids out. We went on a long RV trip. It was like a 6-month RV trip. Gosh, it's probably been almost 10 years ago now. And we didn't realize this until we got back from the trip. We never once turned the radio on.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know if it worked in the RV. I mean, I guess it did. It was a newer RV, but yeah, so I get silence sometimes as gold. And owning a business, when you have a lot of employees, there seems to always be a lot of
yeah
coming at
There's
you.
always something.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your journey, and we'll get into the garage door or the garage space, not garage door, but garage space in a moment. But tell us about your HVAC company. It's Reliable Comfort, right? Out of South Indy.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit how you even got started in the HVAC space.
Oh, man. So we're about an hour south of Indianapolis, southern Indiana, kind of in a rural community. And, you know, back when I got out of high school, I got out of high school with this great ambition to get a job, to make enough money to buy beer. That was it. That was my goal. I had zero interest in college, zero clue what I was going to do. So I got a job making $3.35 an hour back in 1989. And I remember getting my first 40-hour paycheck, looking at my paycheck and going, well, crap, I got a problem. I can drink more than that. And I did some soul searching and figured I didn't have a drinking problem. I had an income problem. So I started looking at what I wanted to do and came across an ad for heating air conditioning at ITT Tech in Indianapolis, and Mom agreed to pay for trade school. So I went to a trade school, a 1-year trade school, and jumped into this industry and found an industry I fell in love with. I was fired from my first 2 jobs and finally found a home with a longtime family-owned company that really treated me well. And so that's kind of how I got into it 35 years ago. And it is literally in my DNA. I love it. I recruited my 2 brothers into it. My 4 girls work for me at the company. One of them works at the garage door company now, but all my girls work for me. My son-in-laws work for me. It is truly a family affair.
And that can be a challenge.
It can be a big challenge.
Yeah. Obviously, Chris and I wrote a book about being married to your business partner. Mm-hmm. And we've always talked about that has obviously a certain set of challenges, but family in general, friend, like all those things have just such a crazy challenges that come with it. So how did you guys stay balanced on that? Like, her Thanksgiving's just wild.
Yeah. My wife, who does have nothing to do with any of the companies, she has a rule. We're not allowed to talk business on family vacation. And to get around that, we just make up stories. It's like, I have this coworker that did this. Could you imagine that? So we have these creative ways around my wife to get around the rule. I started the company with my brothers in 2001. So I was in the industry for about 10 years before we started Reliable Comfort. And so me and my 2 brothers started it. Working with your brothers is a completely new, not new, but it's a challenge. The 3 of us always get along really well. And we started in 2001, and our journey through it is we grew to about $3 million pretty quick. And we kind of stayed stagnant there for a while. And over that time, we employed, our mom, we employed our dad. We did like what every family business does. We did fire our mother. I told her, I gave her promotion going back to be just mom because she had to go. And that's a unique challenge.
That's a unique challenge for sure.
Over the time, I made my dad retire. I said, it's time for you to retire. And he was heartbroken. But then 6 months later, he said, man, that's the best thing I ever did. So I made him do that. And we have a saying around here, your name gets you a seat at the table. Your performance keeps you employed.
Dude, what a great motto.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the missing link that a lot of businesses, family run businesses have is that, they feel like their name automatically keeps them at the table. So good for you guys for having that clarity and having the leadership abilities and skills to say, this is not the right either seat on the bus or the right bus for you at all. We're going to stop and let you off on retirement lane.
Yeah, it is. And it's hard. We've had to have some hard conversations, and we extend a lot of grace to all of our employees,
Sure.
including our kids. And we won't do for ours what we wouldn't do for everybody else. We don't believe in this nepotism. I mean, we've all seen it in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
You're the golden child. And I would venture to say we're harder on our kids than we are everybody else. We expect more out of them. And they've always stepped up to the plate and done well. So we have, out of the 37 people we have, 9 of us are direct family.
Okay.
Either blood or cousins and nephews. And it creates its own challenges. But it creates a lot of fun. I mean, I love the fact that I get to see these guys on a regular basis, and but we expect them to play. We don't allow people to just exist here because they're family.
Yeah. So my son worked for me when he was in high school, and we always had a rule that he could work for any of the businesses. We've owned quite a few businesses. Like, you can work for the business. At no point do you report directly to me.
Right. Yeah.
And it's because I am harder on that kid than I would be any other employee. And which, now he's in the Marines. So
right. We do the same thing.
I shaped him well.
We do the same thing. Your direct report is not your direct family.
Yep.
Now we've gotten to the point now, there's a couple nuances, but it's at a higher level than we've grown to understand how that will work.
So kicking off, you kicked off Reliable Comfort in 2001 with your brothers. You guys grew it pretty quickly. Walk us through that journey of what it looks like today.
Okay. So we hit 2 million, 2.5 million pretty quick. Like, started 2001, we did that like 2006, 2007. And then we just kind of became stagnant. We stayed about, 2 to 2.5 million for the next 10 years. And then 2017, we had a really, really bad year. Lost a couple $100,000. And the youngest of the three of us wanted out. He said, guys, I'm done. I hate contracting. I hate people. I want out. So much so I've got a number. I'll sell you my part of the business for this. To which I'm like, okay, I'll buy it for that. It's less than what I really feel it's worth. Even though we're losing money, I know that the thing has value. And
Right.
So we bought it. And I told my brother, Andy, that stayed. So I'm the oldest. Andy's the middle. Adam's the youngest. Adam left. And I told Andy, I said, I want to do something different. So I'd been to a couple of Service Nation Alliance events, some of the success days. And we had a couple different coaches, but none of them ever really drove us. We had one that was really focused on numbers, but nobody ever taught us how to really run these things. And I told Andy, I said, I want to do something crazy. Let's join Service Nation Alliance. So we joined Service Nation in 2019. Went to boot camp, and we were right at $3 million. And so 2019, we did 3 million, 2020, 4.2, then 5. And then in 2021, we got approached by private equity. And so we sold to a company in 2021. I still stay here. I work for them. I've learned how to play the new game. So
It
I
is
figured
definitely a
out
different game.
it is a game, and I'm here to play, and they treat me pretty well. And so then in 2022 we did 6 million, then 7 million, then 8 million, and we're on pace for 9 million now, um, which is the old $7.5 million wall. We've talked about those, and honestly we're having some, I don't want to say struggles, but there's some frustrations with getting over that $10 million hump because it takes a different leader. I mean, John
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell talks about the law of the lid.
Yep.
I'm having to learn how to operate a company that I don't know the kids' names of everybody that works here anymore because there's almost 35 people and I don't interact with everybody. So it's now having to lead leaders and have leaders lead managers. And it takes a lot of different talent. So we're close to 9 million now. And, it is you know, I'm involved in almost zero day-to-day decisions. I'm working on what's next. How do we improve this? What's that number look like? Why does that number look like what it is? And I lead my leadership team that actually runs the business.
I mean, that's the strategic side of it. I mean, I think that's the thing that's missing in a lot of businesses is having someone focused on the strategic. What are we doing with the business today to drive it forward tomorrow? What are we doing to grow? And to your point about the law of the lib, it is so, so true. And it's not just owners and GMs, it's even service managers. Like you see, departments as they grow. And if they grow from 1 million to 2 million to 4 million to 6 million, a lot of times it's just a different leadership skills. It is not the same. And I think a lot of times people's egos get in the way of of blocking them on what the difference is between the two.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this. The joke around here is I'm just a pretty face. I'm the pretty face, the one that just, I technically don't do anything, but I'm the pretty face that strategically drives us forward.
Well, and the truth is the people in the day-to-day, and especially techs, they don't know what strategic is.
They don't.
And they're not supposed to. I mean, right where they are in their career, if they advance and they do other things, then obviously, hopefully they will learn that. But what do you feel like, so from a leadership standpoint, from that 3 million to the 7 million now, what is something that you've kind of learned throughout that journey that you're like, oh man, I really wish I would have either known that back then or implemented that back then from where you are now?
The key thing, and if I could turn back to 2005 and do it again, the number one thing I would do different is join best practice group, join somebody, get some mentoring, and not try to figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm a very driven, high D, I just give it to me and I'll make it work. And we spent 10 years trying to figure it out on our own. We sat down in like 2008 and we drew the blueprint to have the 5 locations and the trucks and all the structure, but we didn't know how to go do it. So it just sat there as an idea. And, we talked about how do we streamline the customer process and numbers and reporting and, all the things that we saw as inefficiencies, but I didn't connect with the people to help me make it better. We were just day in and day out doing the grind, beating our heads against the wall. Jim Collins in the book, Good to Great. Mm-hmm. The problem was we had it good. We had a good company and we made good money and we did good jobs and we had a good time, but we weren't great. We were better than average back then. I would say we were probably high single digit net profit. And I mean, we thought we were doing fantastic, until I joined Service Nation and I heard this crazy thing that John LaPlante talked about called break even. And I'm like, what do you mean break even? We lose money half the months of the year. It's just how we operate. And I remember coming out of boot camp, my brother was with me. And I told him, we no more months under $200,000. because our break even was 195. So never again. He's like, how are you going to do that? I was like, I have no idea.
That's not important.
We
know the what. We know what we got to do. We'll figure out the how.
Yeah. So I started spending time with people going, okay, that's interesting. Tell me more. Mm-hmm. How do you do that? Why do you do that? And so we changed manufacturers. We went from a big OEM to a less known brand because, believe it or not, brand really doesn't matter.
I'm with you, man. I have a lot of conversation with HVAC contractors that disagree with me on it, but I'm with you. I don't think that the name on the box I'm going to say 95% of customers, the name on the box does not matter. Now, there are customers that are like, I got to have this brand because I saw this commercial or I used to have one and it worked great. But man, that is a very, very small percentage. They're buying you, they're buying your company, they're buying your reputation, not the name on the side of the box.
Yeah. And so I learned from asking people and joining a best practice group was, again, the number one thing I would do is get it connected with people that help me get better. And I learned how to go from single digits to low double digits to, my sweet spot is about 15% net. That's what I shoot for. I mean, and there's guys out there that are north of 20, high five, kudos, congratulations, you're amazing. But I found a really comfort spot in that, 14, 16% net range. And I mean, you can have a great company that serves you well and you can give to your people, you can serve your community in that range. And that's kind of where I have leveled in at, and I'm comfortable there.
Well, and good for you for having that clarity, right? Like, okay, so here's yes, I know other people are doing this, but there's also other things behind the scenes that really you don't know about. But I think that's a good point. You guys are like, here's my sweet spot. Here's what I like. I'm gonna keep it in this zone. Good for you. And what's amazing to me is I think that it is such a bad move. I think every contractor should be part of a best practice group. And you and I are both part of Service Nation. Those guys are top notch. We've been a part of them for a very long time, as well as you and a lot of our other friends. There's great networking. There's great community. And then having some accountability from coaches or whatever that looks like I think it's really crucial to the business. And I mean, you look at any professional athlete, guess what? They got coaches. They typically have multiple coaches. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that Tiger Woods still has a coach. I say that. I don't even know if Tiger Woods is still golfing. So that may not be a good example, but Rory McIlroy, right? Yeah. He still has a coach. He just won the Masters. He didn't win the Masters and go, I'm done. I don't need a putting coach. I don't need a driving coach. I don't need any of that. I don't need a strength and fitness coach. I don't need any of that.
He definitely needs a putting coach after what he done on 18.
Thought he was going to duff that one. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so terrible.
Yeah, we were sitting in B-dubs watching that, and that place just erupted when he missed that. It was crazy.
I'm not a very good golfer. I enjoy golfing, but I don't play it enough to get too serious about it. But I can't imagine the pressure of trying to make a putt. Like for me, my personality, I would be more like the Phoenix Open, I think it's like hole 16 where they're like throwing beers and screaming and yelling.
Right.
That's more my style. Like I need everybody to act a fool, that really quiet, like I'm in my own head. I don't need that. I need the loud. Like bring it.
Yeah.
Bring on the action.
Yeah.
Very cool. So sold the business. You're still operating it as the GM. And now you've got into a new venture.
I have.
Of Kyko Garage Solutions.
Kyko Garage Solutions. We do doors, floors, and more is the tagline. Yeah. So my brother had a friend that owned a garage door company and had owned it for 30 years. And we were sitting here one day talking, and he camps with this guy on a regular basis. So they're sitting around a campfire. And he was bemoaning business. And he was a small guy doing about $1 million out of his garage, at his house, on his farm. And he was just bemoaning about business. And Andy was telling me about this. I'm like, why don't we buy it? He's like, you want to buy it? I'm like, why not? It's home service business. It's what we do with garage doors. It's service,
Different
it's
widget.
replacement, it's
Yep.
upgrades. Why don't we do it? And so he talked to him, and I sat down and talked to the guy, and he's like, "Why do you want to get in the garage door?" I was like, "I'm just interested to see how I can help." And his exact words were, "I love garage doors and garage door people. I hate business." I'm like, "Then you're not going to be best friends."
Yep.
I love business, sales, structure, leadership, and I don't want to touch a garage door. You don't want me putting in garage doors. And so we made a deal. I wanted to buy part of it, leaving part of it. He wanted to sell 100% of it. So he has a 3-year agreement to stay on with us. But I mean, his exact words is, "You treat me so great, I will sell garage doors forever." So I turned him loose to do what is in his strength zone, to nurture and sell and find garage door work. And I've got an operator there. I spend about 8 hours a week on the company. I'm there. I do the sales leadership, financials, and I've got a whole operations team. I've got the garage team. So we took a company that was Kyko Garage Doors, and then I went and completely rebranded it. I put a little mascot monster on her. Kyko is actually the name of the monster. That is his name. And Kyko came from his 2 kids, Kylan and Colton. That's how I came up with Kyko. He wanted me to keep the name, and I had to figure out what am I going to do with this dumb name. Because it really doesn't make sense. So I had to make it make sense. So we made it a little monster, and it's orange and purple and green. Somebody told me the other day it looks like Nickelodeon. And I looked at him like, it kind of does. But it's kind of fun. And so then we added garage floor refinishing. We grind and polyaspartic finish garage floors. And then we added lifetime warranty high-end garage cabinets. So we do garage doors, we do floors, we do cabinets. We're going to eventually get into lighting and other stuff. At some point, my goal is to go devote full-time to that. At some point, I will exit Reliable Comfort and go play in the garage remodel world. I tell people I want to build garage man caves. Because some of the transformations we make on these garages are amazing. We did a front porch yesterday that they had old brown worn out carpet. We tore the carpet off, we grind it and flaked it, and it is just amazing what we can do to these places.
It's pretty interesting to see how that space has grown. Garage door, just that extra space where, and maybe that's part of it is, as people tend to stay in homes longer, they're spending more money to upgrade. But I think that's pretty neat. I know I've got flooring on my garage. I love it because then when I'm working on something in there and it's built, it's not a big deal.
No, it is truly neat. It's durable, lifetime warranty on the stuff. And I found, and I went into it, I said, okay, I want to do this. And what I found was all these franchises wanted me to buy their franchise. And I'm like, I don't want a franchise.
Yeah.
And so I had to look long and hard to find a wholesaler that had the dealer model. Because again, I don't want to build a franchise for a franchise and buy into their programs and their minimum purchases. That's not win-win. So I found a great distributor in Wisconsin that does the training. They sold us our first trailer setup, and we went up there for training. They came down here for training. And same thing with the garage cabinets. I found a great distributor model that wants partners they manufacture, and we wrapped their stuff. So it's been a really good transformation. The biggest challenge with that is I went there for a company that operated like typical contractor financials, give everything to the accountant at the end of the year and say, make me pay as little taxes as possible.
Yeah, here's my shoebox.
Yeah. And so I had to go in there and departmentalize and monthly financials and budgets and forecasts and KPIs and, doors should be this margin. And,
Kristen would be so proud to hear that.
Labor's here. And it is the funny comment was made by the guy that used to own it. It's like, we never lose money. I was like, how do you know? You have no idea.
I feel it.
Yeah. No, you have no idea. Yes, you had money in the checking account. But it's been a great. We took it. We moved it out of his property. We bought a building for it. We put him in a building and got the branding, wrapped all the trucks. And I tell you, it's one of the first things I did is I found my marketing company, my rebranding company, and we happen to use Lemon Seed. Fantastic organization. They did so good with it.
Yeah, Crystal's been on the podcast a couple times.
Yeah, that was one of the first people I went to and said, I'm going to buy this. I want you to do it. And then I went to Online Access and talked to them about doing my website and started to do that stuff. And all of that comes from the network that I've built over the last 6 years through Service Nation. I mean, that's another thing about the best practice groups and building that network of connections is who you can trust. Hey, when I'm going to do this, I know who I'm calling.
Right.
And
get a real answer.
Yeah. And they can tell you there's some things I wanted to do and they told me don't do that. Here's why. Here's why you don't want to do that. And it was a great journey. So bought it, rebranded it. They were doing about $1 million. We're getting ready to close our first full year in 2 weeks, and we're going to do about 1.7 million the first year.
Nice.
So cool. Pretty good growth. Adding the other products, not super
pretty good
profitable.
Growth might be an understatement.
Yeah, thanks. Not super profitable because it's expensive to grow.
Right.
It's expensive to rebrand.
And you're basically starting a new business. So branding, building, hiring, training, yeah.
But it's designed to go from, we'll end the first year, actually the first fiscal year was a loss. But this year we'll wind up in that, the goal is right at 10%, but I'm going to build it right at that 15% net and just build it and, let it do its thing. And the one thing I'm doing there quicker than I ever did here, systems and processes.
Yep.
How do we order that door? How does it come in? How does it go out? How do we jump cost it? How do we control material? How do we control labor? I sat through a breakout one time with a guy that said the two things you have to control the most is material and labor.
Yep.
That guy was brilliant, by the way.
Yeah.
By the way, that was you in the chart.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, labor and material, the two things that'll just smash your business.
It is
faster than anything else. And honestly, a lot of times it's two of the easiest things to keep a regular handle on, right. Which is, but you got to watch it every day. You can't watch it every month. You can't watch it every quarter. Damn sure can't watch it every year. It's got to be every day. Well, cool. Aaron, that is such a good story. I know you got a ton of stuff to do. As we wrap up, any kind of closing thoughts you've got for the audience?
Yeah, the number one thing, the thing that's really helped me the most over the last 5 years is I became a student of leadership. I went and became a John Maxwell certified speaker, trainer, and coach. Just because I want the content helps me develop myself. Mm-hmm. Never underestimate the amount of stuff that you can learn from podcasts, from audiobooks. I listen to, I think 3 or 4 different podcasts on a regular basis and audiobooks. I try to do a couple audiobooks a month. Best audiobook you could listen to is a book called Rhinoceros Success.
I have not read that.
It is an hour and a half. I recommend the audiobook way better than the physical book. Because the guy that
wouldn't read the physical book.
Right. The guy that does the audiobook has tons of energy. It's about being a rhinoceros and taking the world by storm and just going out and making stuff happen.
What is that? We say that name of the book again.
It's called Rhinoceros Success.
I was struggling because apparently I can't spell rhinoceros. So
no, I couldn't either. Don't ask me how to spell it.
Success is what I got.
Yeah, but it is a fantastic little short hour and a half book that you can. I love it so much. I listen to it once a month for a year.
Very cool.
I mean, the first day of the month, I turned it on. I listened to it every single month because it just kind of keeps me focused. And so that's a big thing is number one, always be learning and always be feeding your mind with good stuff. And secondly, when life gets hard, when business gets hard, have your key people you can call to say, man, I'm having a bad time right now. I need it. We call it therapy with, the buddies I call. It's like, hey, I need some therapy. Let's talk. And whether it's virtual, whether it's, online, whether it's just a phone call, is have those key people in your corner that that can lift you up when you get down. Mm-hmm. One of the great things about me and my brothers is there was three of us that started this. I couldn't imagine doing this by yourself because I always had those two that when one of us is down, the other two could pick them up. Yeah. And all three of us never got down at the same time. And so who do you have in your corner that's going to pick you up and help you along the journey? Because you never want to go through this alone. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that's helped me is, connected with a best practice group, go to conferences. Yeah. And even if you don't walk away from there with a ton of new things you learned, seeing the people and talking to the people and building the relationships is so valuable that it is a big, it's a big help in business. So that's all I got.
Network is equal to your net worth. So okay. Good message, Aaron. I appreciate it. That's all great information. Thank you so much for sharing, and appreciate you coming on, man. And let's catch back up and keep us posted on the adventures of the garage door business. And I want to hear about the growth. And let's be honest, there's always challenges. We want to hear about all of that, the challenges and the success as well. So, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on, man.
You're welcome, Justin. Take care, man.